All right, today's headline: about 9 million Americans are now priced out of the housing market, worsening the affordability crisis that we're experiencing. Who would have thought? Well, welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Today is the 12th of April. We're working our way through the month now. Hope you're doing well. Randy Patrick here, as always, putting the realism back in real estate. And guess what? This video today is brought to you by our friends at Foreclosure.com. If you'd like to find out and take a look at the distressed property listings in your neighborhood, go to gethousingdata.com. That's gethousingdata.com. They are the number one provider of distressed property listings in the U.S. So please check them out. Look for pre-foreclosures, probates, tax deeds, foreclosure auctions. You'll see it all there. All right, so before we get into the housing side of things, so obviously information today was released on the economy. Why? Because it's that time again, and we all want to know what's happening with the economy, right? So basically, having warned the world to expect extraordinarily elevated levels of inflation due to Putin's price hike, I guess that's the new thing now, Putin's price hike. The White House is likely in shock this morning as headline CPI rose 1.2% in March, which sent the headline CPI up a shocking 8.5% year over year. This is the highest level since 1981. So again, extraordinary numbers here. Adds to the issues that we're all facing in today's economy, right? So we're going to focus right on the housing, though. So obviously, according to Bloomberg, the source here, and the CPI stuff, the cost of putting a roof over your head continues to soar. March shelter inflation is 5.0% year over year. That's the highest level since May 1991. And the March rent inflation is 4.44% year over year. That's the highest since May 2007. We can take a look at that inflation, that index there, and you can see how over the past, basically a couple of quarters, a few quarters, it's gone up exponentially, and that does not bode well for home buyers and people who need to rent. Now, when you have all these issues going on, what happens when you have a poor economy? Well, people pull back, and they pull back on what? Luxury items, wants as opposed to needs, must-have or wants as opposed to needs, all right? So pandemic-driven second home boom is coming to an end. After last year's frenzy for vacation homes, looks like buyers are now backing off amid rising mortgage rates and an increase in loan fees for second homes. So I didn't realize there's probably extra fees for second homes. You got to pay, you got the money to buy a second home, you're going to pay, I guess, as well, all the tolls along the way. Demand for vacation homes dropped sharply for the second month in a row, with mortgage rate locks for second homes at their lowest level since 2020. And we all know that when rates go up a little bit, the very next week, mortgage applications for either purchase and refi are affected. It's almost you can see it happen almost virtually immediately. When rates go up, applications drop dramatically as well too. Now, vacation homes are still up 13% year over year from the pandemic, but the slowdown is there. Slowdown in demand for vacation homes joins other early signs that the historically fast rise in mortgage rates and record high home prices are pricing out some buyers. Yes, it's pricing out some buyers, and it's cooling the market down in various locations across the country. So let's take a look at this graph from Redfin. The blue line is the primary home demand. So you can see that that's been pretty constant since coming out of the pandemic time frame, like when everything was shut down. But obviously the second home stuff jumped immediately, once the pandemic hit, kind of had a few ups and downs. Now it's pretty much cratering the past few quarters. So again, you need to take a look at this and kind of understand what's happening in the marketplace. It's great. People left urban areas. They went to locations of better climate, better taxation, better, whatever they felt better politically for them, safer locations, able to work from home or do new business, whatever they wanted to do, lifestyle changes. But now when the mortgage rates change, people pull back on those items and they kind of hunker down. And that's, I guess, what's happening right now in the marketplace. Now, getting back to the headline here, 9 million Americans priced out of the housing market as affordability crisis worsens. According to NAR, the National Association of Realtors, estimates millions of Americans have been priced out of the housing market since January as skyrocketing mortgage rates spark an affordability crisis. The senior economist and head of forecasting for NAR said that 9 million home buyers had been priced out of the market. Out of that total, about 3 million were from the millennial household group there. The blame resides primarily on soaring mortgage costs. At the start of the year, we had a 3% on average mortgage interest rate for home loans. We're looking at about 5.25 this morning. That is the highest rate since 2009. So clearly, all the past 10 plus years of quantitative easing is over, and now they're tapering and they're tightening up their policies with some of them. Obviously, we know interest rates have risen on the basis point side, so it's going to affect mortgage rates as well too. We can certainly see from this graph here that once 2022 came into play, we've seen a pretty drastic shift in mortgage rates, highest since 2009, sort of peaking over the peak we had in about 2018-19 area. Okay, so again, things are a little bit crazy out there. Basically, the issue is that people are feeling that life is pretty demoralizing now. So what we're seeing now is, people's expectations are changing. Realism is coming in. We're hearing a lot more feet in the street reporting about what's going on. It's pretty demoralizing. We went in feeling pretty hopeful, but that hope has diminished over time to the point that we're feeling pretty small. We're getting to the point where we may have to give up soon. So these are people who are looking for a home, basically saying we can't handle the high price points for home price appreciation where we're at right now, plus the added burden of interest rates going up 2.25% from the beginning of the year. That basically, the housing affordability is the worst on record. Bank of America economists recently showed clients the plunge in affordability as at a record pace as well too. This is the graph we got here. You can see that affordability index, 6-month lead is dropping, impact from rates is dropping, existing home sales is dropping. So you can see that the index is being pushed down and everyone's sentiment from the buyer side is pretty poor. Record plunge in affordability. There you go, guys. NAR suggests that this affordability crisis will worsen or likely to worsen. And obviously the housing market cracks have already begun to appear as sellers drop their housing prices. Now, one comment I like to make here is that we're talking about an affordability crisis, which to me, doesn't that mean we're in a housing bubble? So are we now using affordability crisis as a new moniker for housing bubble? I don't know. Maybe it's a nicer way of saying things, or it's not as obvious, or the housing bubble's been kind of beaten down the past couple of years. So again, I don't care how you spin it. It's still the same thing. So yeah, if you're in a housing bubble, that means prices are out of control and they're gaining for no real reason other than froth and exuberance, like we've spoken about before, which means as a result, you can't afford it, so you have an affordability crisis. So I guess it just depends on how you want to lead in your journalism and how you want to write things. So yes, cracks appear in the housing market. Sellers begin to lower asking prices. So clearly we're going to see that as we have quick interest rates going up. It's less affordability. So if sellers want to sell and still take advantage of having a pretty high or peak market out there, home price appreciation, they better sell now. So new data suggests that the red hot housing market is beginning to crack as new listings increase and sellers reduce asking prices. So that's right. So home price appreciation, no inventory, buyer, supply and demand. So all the people out there that are talking about why we're not going to have a housing crisis is basically that's the reason why. It boils down to supply and demand. There's two things. Number one, we have better mortgages and more qualified people out there now, so we're not going to have any problems from that side, well, which remains to be seen, and we'll debate that. But the fact of the matter is with supply and demand, that because the demand is so high, that we're going to ride this out. It's not going to make any difference in the market. Keep buying that house. Okay, well, guess what? If we now see new listings increase, it's because people are going, I need to list it before I miss this last little bit of housing profitability. And now when we see more listings, the world becomes more competitive, and homeowners are going to have to go, or sellers are going to have to go, well, maybe my list price is too high. I have to adjust to accommodate for, number one, more competition for the listing side, and second, because rates have gone up so fast and look like they're still going to go up a bit. So therefore, the seller's buying power is decreased, which means less and less people can afford my home. So that's how you have to take a look at it. So it's things like this that change the market ever so subtly, but when you add them all together, they make a big impact, okay? Realtor.com reports that new listings were up 8% from a year ago. This comes after 4 consecutive weeks of annual declines in listings. Housing market shortage is still down 13% from a year ago, but they're saying the reverse could happen. We could start to see some things pick up as we're starting to right now. Price drops are still rare, but they're becoming more frequent as one clear sign that the housing market is cooling, said a Redfin economist. And basically, Realtor.com and Redfin data should be some of the first evidence that the housing market is cooling, as a rate shock could produce more turmoil in the second half of the year. All right. So right now we're in early April, all right, and we're moving towards time where people list their properties. Why? Because they want to catch the spring summer selling season, right? So typically, May stuff, people list April, people are looking May, June. They're going to contract, they're closing end of June, July timeframe, maybe into August, and then everyone moves and gets kids in school and the whole bit. So we know how that routine works. So expectations, we're probably going to still see a pretty hot market, and we'll probably still see, depending on the locations, we'll still see price increases or competition, just because that's what people have to do. Those that have to move, regardless of timing and price points and rates. So we're probably going to see some of that going on, and we're probably still going to see the fact that the narrative is going to call it, hey, nothing's wrong with the housing market, still good, get in while you can. But the rate shock, as I said, won't really be seen until the second half of the year, once this selling season is over, and then things, by that time we see where stuff's at, people will be dropping prices. At that time, some of these foreclosure filings and some of the foreclosure activities going on will now have been growing over the past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, and that can start to manifest and show itself a little bit. That might add some relief to the marketplace. So that is slowly picking up. It's never talked about in any of this discussion points, but it's coming, and no one wants to realize that. All right, affordability shock. This graph just basically shows that it's dropping pretty hard. The hit to affordability is just one piece of the puzzle. Now supply is building as seller drops prices, potentially painting an ominous outlook for the housing market. So exuberance and froth to now ominous outlook. That's a pretty dramatic change in maybe 30 days since rates really sort of took off. This is from the Housing Bubble blog. I love this website because they tend to gather information from different parts of the country in these little paragraphs, also different parts of the world, so we can see what's going on globally. I like it because we're hearing from, again, the feet on the street, stuff that actually is happening with real estate agents, sellers, home buyers, mortgage people, developers, whatever that may be in the real estate world. We hear about it here. So here's a not so fun fact from the National Public Radio News. The monthly mortgage payment it takes to buy the typical home in the U.S. is now up by a staggering 55% compared to the start of last year. It's because of the dramatic rise in mortgage rates. So a dude's looking for a home last summer in Tampa here. Mortgage rates were around 3%. It's added like $700 a month in monthly payments. I mean, a ridiculous amount just from interest rates. That doesn't even factor in the big gain in prices over the past year as he's trying to buy a home. So that's right. So everyday average people who just want to buy a home, let alone invest or do other things with real estate, but just to buy a home to live in it, people are getting pinched and squeezed. So when you have inflation, when you have high gas prices, when you have interest rates going up on mortgage on your mortgage, when you have high home appreciation, the high prices in properties, and you now have poor economy, and you have losing faith in the political administration, and you have world issues like war that's going on in the Ukraine right now. So all that adds into what I would call housing instability. Causes people to check what they're doing, to reevaluate what they're doing, to say, do I need to buy? Should I pull back a bit? Who knows what's going to happen? Do I hunker down? It causes people who are looking to sell to go, hey, I should put my home in the market right now. Why? Because things may change in 3 or 4 months, and I could miss this peak situation here. So we're going to see that happening next few months. Now, interesting enough, tours of for sale homes in California have dropped 21% as of March 31st from the first week of 2022. LA and Orange County, the number of home buyers who applied for a mortgage dropped 18%. In San Fran, San Diego, it was 13%. Basically, we're seeing rising rates have pushed a few folks out of the market. We're starting to hear from sellers who want to get their home listed before the summer because they feel like we're nearing the peak of the market. I have to laugh at this because this is the guy, Redfin dude from LA. So I think California tends to run on its own little whatever, it's like its own little country and it marches to its own little beat. It's interesting that people in California are saying that they want to list their homes now because we're nearing the peak. Okay, well, geez, I think we're at the peak already, and the peak has been peaking along for quite some time. So it's funny that maybe some people still expect that prices will still rise and we're not even at the peak yet, which to me is pretty surprising But again, that's a different world out there. They certainly have higher price points and different dynamic in the real estate business. More supply than demand, with frenzied sellers coming late to a dying party. Housing affordability keeps hitting new lows in the U.S. First-time buyers have been priced out of the market. Investors are not likely to stay around when they realize the music has stopped. So you see, where we are today is that we have a market that's freaking out of control. So if anybody doesn't believe that, then I don't know what's going on personally. But really, if you take a look at it, as I said, it's completely controlled and constrained. Why do I say that? Because we have normal people who just want to buy, okay, and that number is increasing, okay. We have so many more real estate investors, and I'm not just talking about mom and pop small investors. I'm talking about tens, hundreds of $1 million investors, let alone hedge funds and corporate investors and things like that. Hedge funds, REITs, like we're talking people who have billions of dollars. So they're in the market, they're buying. Okay, we have the iBuyers who are playing. Some iBuyers are doing okay, some are not. Depends on the market, depends on their model, I guess, right? So they're stoking the fire as well too. So you have all this going on, and to make ends worse, we've just gone through roughly 2 years of a foreclosure and eviction moratorium, which number one has put pressure on landlords, and two, basically choke the market off from seeing additional inventory and additional lower price inventory coming in to make a difference. So you see, the market has been completely manipulated and controlled. So guess what? That's what we're dealing with right now. So funny enough, when they say the investors are not likely to stay around when they realize the music has stopped, well, the investors will now pivot. So they're buying properties now, and they're paying a premium for these properties because they know that they can match the premium of the investing with the premium of the rental increases. So it still makes sense for them. Basically, you're spreading your margin, right? Simple as that. They know when things get a little too out of control, they're going to pull back and they're going to pivot, because that's going to be the start of things sort of cracking, and then they're going to start focusing on, let's buy the foreclosure and pick up the stressed properties. See, so very easy for the money people to make the decisions, turn on a dime when they have to. Their model still remains the same. It's to acquire as long as they're spread there. Simple as that. So basically, you have to, what they're saying for housing, well, we'll see a drop in transactions because of the high interest rates. What remains is the fact that prices at some point will have to adjust for all these higher mortgages and higher costs. Economic research person at Realtor.com. So everybody is basically saying we have to see some change in price points. So it's not just me wishing for a housing crash all these years. It basically, and I don't wish that, I just wish adjustments would happen. Okay, I don't wish people to be in situations where they're having difficulty making ends meet and having difficulty with their shelter needs. But essentially, it boils down to, we can't, like, everyone you talk to cannot be sustained. Talked to 4 people today already before this video was made, where they all say can't sustain this market, preparing for the worst. Okay, there you go. This is interesting. So this basically is a potential home buyer in Charlotte, North Carolina, is relocating from California with her family, and interest rates are on top of her mind. Now we have to look for homes in a much lower price range than what we were initially pre-qualified for because of the interest rates. Homes in the Charlotte market would need to drop 30 to 40%, I guess, to absorb that increase for this person here. If we find something, we find something. If not, I'm considering holding back and not purchasing a home. So this is the thing that we're going to see now. So I think people are becoming, number one, well, buyers are tired and over this market. Worst buyer sentiment ever, I think, right now from a home buyer perspective. And that works on resale homes and new buyer homes as well too, like new construction homes. So we see that going on. So you have, and this is an example of somebody going, you know what? If we can find something great, but we're not gonna stress ourselves out about it anymore. And if it's not meant to be, we're gonna pull back and we're gonna wait. So see, this is what people don't factor in on where things are going in the future. They don't factor in on distressed properties eventually coming to the market. They don't factor in on people going, I've had enough, all right, and just pulling back, because then the market dynamics will change. More, sellers will have to adjust. Sellers will have to put properties at lower price or pull them off the market or whatever. So, it really, we are truly at an inflection point as to how this is going to play out right now. All right, I kind of think I know where it's going, but you never know. Oh, and by the way, I've talked a long time right now. If you're not a subscriber to my channel and you appreciate the information I provide, if you can help my channel grow and smash that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate that. So thank you. And for those of you that are subscribers, could you double check and smash the subscribe button again, because I lose subscribers magically from my channel. So thank you very much, guys, for your patronage here. So so that's kind of the end of that part of my discussion. You can see that. So what's the summary here? Not just me. Everybody now is talking about there's cracks, There's got to be price adjustments. We can't go on like this anymore. So it's a well-known fact that the current housing market is unsustainable, except for a small percentage of the population. All right, and as I said, there's two housing markets in play now. So this is what we're looking at having here: mainstream retail, on market, MLS, Zillow, buy, high prices, bidding wars. All that's the retail market, and then we have this not spoken about shadow inventory, off market stuff behind the scenes. That those who know how to get access to it, those who are going to play in that market are going to benefit. All right, and the difference is right now, because of the 2-year moratorium and all the things that have gone on. And yeah, lenders are trying to help clients. Some of that's slowing some of it down too. But eventually these markets need to converge to have some major price reductions. At this point in time, they're not in a converging path, and that's really, I think, so we're looking for, like, that's predisposed discussion and thought process by lenders, Wall Street, the government, whatever. Right? They want to keep these two markets separate, because the minute they intersect, then overall price points drop. All right, so they're happy to let the hedge funds buy at the foreclosure auction, because the homes they buy at the foreclosure auction are not going to come back on the market as distressed properties that you and I can buy at cheaper prices. Simple as that. Because if it goes to foreclosure to a hedge fund or a big buyer, anybody with money for that matter, they're not putting it back out in the market at a small price. It's going to be a rental property or a fix and flip at a retail price point. So that's why the whole aspect is to keep these two markets from like never two train tracks, never colliding, never converging. Okay, that's the game plan here, guys. Rolling distress statistics. I like to talk about this. Obviously, 2 million people in forbearance. There's more than that. These are underreported numbers. They're going through their forbearance metrics right now. Out of forbearance, can lenders make some adjustments? Can they help them with loan mods? Can they do things, workout plans, whatever? We'll see if this all is working. Lots of people aren't in any not getting help right now. 51% of delinquent loans are not in any loss mitigation program. That means they're going all the way down through the foreclosure process at some point in time. 72% of those people in a loss mitigation program, which would be a loan mod, workout plan, whatever, are not paying. So it just goes to show that people that are in the loan mod, like in the loss mitigation to help save their homes or maintain residency in their homes, they're not paying. So at some point in time, if you get into a loan modification plan and you pay for a couple of months and stop paying because you have financial cash flow issues, well, then you will eventually fall into the foreclosure bucket as well too. That's why, when this actually starts hashing out, we'll see what's really going on. Okay. Estimate 3 to 10 million foreclosures. Various sources all over the place have quoted this. As I said, I'm going to go with in the middle, 7.5 million. That's my number for foreclosures happening, or pre-foreclosure type people basically in the marketplace. So that's my prediction. Right now, I'm actually taking people right now for the distressed deal architect or property architect program. It's got a number of things for it. It's going to be 8 weeks of live training, and I designed these training modules and our live training to really coincide with what's happening in the housing market right now. Like, if you want to get property or participate in the housing market on the upside, this is what you got to look at: foreclosures, auctions, REOs if you're bank owned, pre-foreclosures and short sales, tax deed sales, okay, probate estate. Many people are passing away that have mortgages, and they sit there and they go away and lose them to foreclosure. All right, taking property subject to the mortgage, maybe something you've never heard of before. It's a whole other strategy. All right, you leave the mortgage in place and you work around that. Vacant land could be acres and acres, for development, or they could be infill urban center lots that are split off from somebody who has a double lot, or they're sitting there to do some neat things with, okay? Which leads us to the build to rent, build to flip concept. I think that's very powerful. And put it this way, a lot of the big hedge fund players are going to builders, and they're actually having whole communities built strictly for build to rent, believe it or not. Also, the Airbnb opportunity, I think that's going to really explode. It's gaining a lot of momentum. It's really going to explode the next little while, especially in certain states where people want to relocate to, because they want to come down, lay the groundwork, check it out, stay at an Airbnb for a couple of weeks to figure out where they want to be in the new location and go from there. So I see a lot of activity in Airbnb. So if you want more information on this, you just send me an email and I'll get back to you on that. But this, I think, is a really great opportunity. It's different than my short sale program, which is no longer available. This is more entry level. And I think for the average person, it's going to help you understand what's going on in the marketplace. The short sale stuff is a little more advanced. I'll be honest with you. And that's going to come back in a different format very shortly. Stuff like this, basically, people look at this and ask me a lot of questions. This is a really great example. And yes, it's a darn good example. I'll admit that. The point, though, is that, it just goes to show that in this world of housing narrative where, hey, people are facing foreclosure, all they have to do is put in the market and sell it and pay off their loan. Well, guess what? Doesn't always happen. All right. Why? Because the longer it sits there, the more you chip away at your loan, like your equity, and then you get underwater. And if it needs repairs and stuff, well, no one's going to pay premium market for something that they have to repair and add more money into, and they don't have the people who own it don't have the cash flow to fix it. So it's this vicious circle. So believe it or not, there'll be lots of foreclosures, and people won't just simply be able to sell easily and get that top money expectation, because buyers are becoming way more savvy, and they're not going to buy properties at the peak when you got to put in more money afterwards. Okay, simple as that. It goes to show that we can't get discounts, and we can create equity in the stuff that we do. All right. So I'll tell you how to engage this housing market going forward. Connect with me, Randy at luxuryshortsales.com. So I'll reach out to me. Okay, hopefully I'll get another video in before the week's end. It's really busy, guys. Stuff's happening now. Now's the time to inquire and get involved, because if you don't think that the market's changing, rewatch this video, because all the things I'm reading, and it's not me saying this, it's what other people are saying or stating in the marketplace, going, things are changing, cracks are there, dynamics are changing, this is how it all starts. It gets quiet and it slows down, and then it dips the other way and things pick up steam. So anyway, thank you once again for the views, likes, comments. Please share the video with your family and friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and look forward to speaking with you in a couple of days. Take care.